Perfect. Well, welcome everybody who's joined to the next episode in our Make Ideas Happen webinar series. My name is Katrina and I'm part of the enterprise support team here at Oxford Bricks, taking passion into action and supporting people to make their ideas happen. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions or thoughts, please make use of the Q&A feature below and chat box. We will also be streaming this live on our Facebook page, so if you want to pop on there, it's Brooks Enterprise Support, and give us a like or a share, that will be great. And I'm delighted today to be joined by entrepreneur, TEDx speaker and diversity expert Sonya Barlow, and she will be taking us through how to have business conversations online. So Sonya, over to you.
Thank you so much. Such a kind introduction, and I'm so happy to be doing something with you guys again. Of course, we kind of came into collaboration late last year, and I just want to really support your community as much as I can. So of course, today we'll be talking about managing difficult conversations, especially online. What I would like to start off with is this is a safe space, inclusive space. Please ask questions, get involved. Definitely use the chat kind of functionality, and then Katrina and Jude, if there's any questions that come up, please do share and kind of let's go from there. A little bit about me before we start. So I am a founder. Long story short, I graduated in 2015. I went into the world of technology. So my background is tech consultancy, digital transformation, big data, AI, machine learning. About 2 years ago, I realized that I was quite silo in the tech community, and I didn't feel like I really belonged, and I didn't really have a sense of connection. And so I started a brunch club. That brunch club was called Like-Minded Females, and believe it or not, no one showed up to the first 3 brunches, so it was just kind of myself and a couple of friends around. But that's the first life lesson, right? When you are running a business, or in anything and everything you do, it won't always go to plan. So don't worry, just stick at it. Consistency and resilience is quite important. Whilst maintaining a full-time job in tech, I then shifted this into a hobby, into a side hustle. In 2019, upskilled over 900 people, delivered 2 TED Talks, 4 keynotes, and worked with over 20 global brands. And it came to about November last year, I was like, right, I'm going to take this full time, quit my job, took it full time, got to February, decided I didn't want to run a commercial business from Like-Minded Females, so I transitioned to a not-for-profit social enterprise, set up my own consultancy, and now obviously COVID-19's hit. So imagine in the life of an entrepreneur, that's a lot of roller coasters you've been down. And I guess, you know, something I want to reiterate is my TED Talk is all about failure comes before resilience, and that's exactly what it is. We're not failing, but these are definitely obstacles and hurdles that we're being challenged with. And if we can kind of jump over and adapt and keep flexible, we will enable our resilience muscle to become stronger, and most importantly, go to a realm of being just able to really take on any challenge. But in all of that, the one consistent thing I've had are very difficult business conversations. I've had them when I was in the work, in kind of a corporate setting, asking about promotion, pay, negotiation. I'm having them now with clients about budgets and freelancing and talent. I'm having it with community members about instances where actually, you know, silly examples like I've held a webinar and they've paid for it, but they can't find the link to the webinar. So now they want a free session, or they want another session, or they want their money back. And it's having difficult conversations all throughout. There's conversations going out right now about, conversations that are going on around late deliveries and parcels and objects not coming, or kind of delivery services. We're having difficult business conversations all the time. And so today what we're going to go through is what difficult conversations are, an understanding of strategies that we can use, an example of a template and information that I've actually used going forward, and then some really clear call to actions and next steps. But again, this is your time, so please feel free to put comments in, ask questions, and make sure that this is relevant to what you are doing and what you're requiring. So conversations, fears, failures, and F moments. That's really what it is, right? what holds you back from having the conversation you want? Fear, the fear of failing, the lack of confidence, the lack of knowledge, feeling like you're too junior, feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you don't want to hear the answer no, and already making up your mind of what they're going to say to you even before you say it. These are just some examples. They're not the maximum examples, they're just some examples of what we go through. Of course, in the chat, if you have any other things to share, please do. I want to hear what holds you back from having the conversation you want. Really let me know, and then we can really adapt this presentation as we go along. So let's have an honest conversation about conversations. The different types of conversations that exist: work and freelancing, finances, rent and expensive, friendships, relationships, university, education. Obviously, right now, everyone is going through something, right? Wellness, mentally, sanity, emotionally, financially, we're going through it. It's about how do we manage these conversations? How do we manage these feelings and emotions? But most importantly, how do we manage it online? Where right now I'm giving a presentation, I can't see anyone on the screen. So I have no idea if you like it, if you don't like it, and what your reaction is. So I have to go with my gut. At the same time, it's not like you can just raise your hand and ask a question, I can see you. So I have to obviously adapt and go on the chat function or have someone kind of reach out questions. And that's a difficulty in itself. As a presenter and as an entrepreneur, I now need to adapt and change and pivot and diversify my skill set so I can adapt to what you want. And that's the same way as we are doing as individuals. That's what we are doing. We're adapting, we're finding new ways of doing things, and most importantly, we're being flexible in our tone, our communications, our body language. I don't know if you guys have heard of the rule, but it's something like 62%, something along that lines. 60-something% of your communication in your conversation is actually through your body language. 30-something% is your tone of voice, and only around 7% is the actual content that you share. So now that I'm digital, of course, you can't really see my body language. So a lot of it's my tone, my energy. Am I smiling? Am I speaking with kind of passion? Am I really making a difference? Can you hear that when you listen? Are you engaged? And we'll get into that as we go along. So what is a difficult conversation? So a difficult conversation is any situation where the needs, the wants, opinions, or perceptions of the involved parties are diverse, with their feelings and emotions running strong. Usually, the reason behind such strong feelings and emotions is that they have a lot at stake, or they dread the consequences as a conflict. And then I love what Dr. Albert says. He says, for a productive conversation, we have to tame our emotional brain. Now, the emotional side of our brain is called the dinosaur brain. He says if you're in your dinosaur brain, you're going to play out a 6 million-year-old program and nothing good is going to happen. In that case, the dinosaur brain of the other person is going to feel attacked, and then you're going to respond with fighting or running away. One's going to get defensive, one's going to scream, one's going to yell, the situation's going to escalate, and not much is going to be accomplished. So that's the basis of a difficult conversation. It's difficult because there's a lot of emotion involved, a lot of feelings, you get heated up, and you're not necessarily looking at the practical, the logical. Same in business. So here's 7 steps to managing a difficult conversation. 1, you establish connection, i.e. a connection with you or with I. Establishing maybe some commonalities, some similarities, something that we share, which resonates in both of us. 2, you understand who owns the problem. Is it a me problem or a you problem? 3, you don't judge. There is no judging involved. You just listen, and that's 4. 5, you ask questions. You stay curious. You're inquisitive. You try and understand a deeper meaning. 6, you approach the question or the conversation with curiosity rather than the judgment. And 7, actively focus on what you're hearing, not what you're saying. Hearing. What is the other person actually saying to you? Are you listening to exactly what that is? And one way of doing that is to repeat that going forward. And here's how you can have successful conversations. Here's one strategy. So one reason why it may be difficult is because it's a pattern of things or a trend that you're seeing. Now, if you're at university and your lecturer is constantly giving you the same or similar marks, maybe that's a trend. Your friends are similar or similarly repeating the same comments, they're making you feel the same way, that's a trend. So build-up is a series of things that happen in which you see a pattern. Your reflection is your cornerstone. You spend time reflecting on why the other person's behavior bothers you, and you get clear on what you really want. So if at university you're feeling like you're achieving the same grades, what is it you want? Is it you want clarity on what you can do next, or clarity on how you're being communicated to? In friendship, if you're constantly being left out, do you want to be invited, or is it because you just want to know what's going on? The conversation, so it's a dialogue between those involved to create a co-created solution, i.e. you have to sit down or be face-to-face at this point, or kind of conversation to conversation, and really talk through what's happened and what you want. And the follow-through, you have to work together. Everything good comes out of working together. You have to hold each other accountable and solve any problems together, which means that if this is how you feel, take the emotion out, think logically, practically, but also have an accountability aspect. You follow through, you work together to make sure that you can come to a solid solution. In business, it's exactly the same. In business, if you're working with clients and you see that they're not paying you, they're not respecting you, they're not treating you, not replying back to your emails, right? A really simple one, emails. If they're not replying back, it's a matter of patterns. Why does it bother you? Does it bother you because you need the information? Does it bother you because you want to keep them in the loop? Does it bother you because they're not giving you the attention? Your conversation, you put some time into their diary, create a really solid agenda, schedule it and say, hey, I've sent you 3 emails in the past week. You haven't replied to any of them. I need them to go forward. Otherwise, I'm not able to move on with my project. And follow through. Instead of emails, maybe they work better via a phone call. Maybe they need you to go and jump on a call and tell them what's going on so they can give you a reply. Is there something you can work on together? Are there any questions or comments before I move through? Okay, I shall carry on. So this is an exercise which I'm happy for us to do together, or you can do in your own time. Note down a difficult conversation you've had, reflect on what we've discussed in this kind of section already, and what would you have done differently? I actually spoke about this particular concept within a community group 2 weeks ago, and I had about 30 attendees, and they were all kind of young professionals. And one of them said, you know, the difficult conversation I've had with business is my colleague is now very close to me, like a friend, and is a friend, but our conversation got really heated. And we said a few things we shouldn't have, and now we're not speaking the same way, or we don't have the same kind of relationship. And having spoken to her and having gone through this kind of first section, she said, you know, I would have taken the emotions out of it. I would have not necessarily focused on how I felt, but the patterns and the trends I saw, and worked with her to acknowledge her idea and her thinking, but also for her to understand mine. And then made each other accountable, i.e. no raising of voices, no shouting, no screaming, and making sure that we try and differentiate our work life with our personal life. And it's small instances of simpler things that we don't remember, but we can definitely do. Of course, if you have anything to share, or if you would like to get involved, please do just drop information either in the comments on Facebook or in the chat section. The other thing that's quite interesting is your personality. Now, I don't know if you've ever done a personality test, but there's tons out there on the internet. You can just Google personality test, but here is one that is available for everyone to do. For those that are on the chat, I'm just going to put it into the chat function so that you can have it. It takes no more than 2 minutes. And what you can do is answer a range of questions, and it will basically just tell you how like attentive you are versus not attentive, how confident you are versus not confident, how extrovert you are versus introvert, and kind of where you are on the spectrum. But that can definitely help us when it comes to having these difficult conversations. One of the reasons why conversations also get difficult is because we're communicating in a way that other people don't want to be communicated to. If it doesn't work, I'll send you the correct link. Sorry, it probably because it doesn't have the www dot on it, which I must have forgotten. So if you just write in the rest of the link, it should be fine. Oh, sorry. So as I was saying, of course, in terms of your personality type, so if you see on this kind of spectrum, where would you sit versus where would the other person sit that you're having a conversation with? i.e., I'm quite yellow and at the same time quite red. So if someone's speaking to me as if I'm a green or a blue, it's not going to work for me. I'm either going to get bored, or I'm going to find it quite difficult, or I'm going to react in a different way. Sorry, does someone have a question?
Yes. Just there's one question that has just come in. It's I want to have that difficult conversation with the teammate who isn't pulling their weight in the group, and everybody is waiting on this person. They haven't been attending meetings for over a week. How do I go about this?
Thank you for that question. So one of the strategies that we'll go through, I'll talk about briefly now. Again, it's really to understand the pattern of behavior. So firstly, think about how does this person communicate? Are they a yellow, a green, a blue, or a red? Do they like, are they quite results driven? Are they a storyteller? Do they have something which may be going on? So the first thing to do is most probably to put some time in the diary and just to check in with them, just to kind of say, you know, where do you kind of best see yourself and where do we see fit? The second thing is to create a kind of factual representation. So very much to say, we have this project, we've had X amount of meetings, unfortunately you haven't showed up to this many meetings, this is why we need it to work, this is the expectation, right? So this is not feelings or emotions, it's not I think you haven't showed up, it's here is the proof that you haven't showed up and you haven't done your part, and we need your part to get X amount of the grade. And give them alternatives. You know, is there something going on that we should know about where you can't do it? How much time do you need? And if you're not able to give it in that time, what are the next steps? So the next steps obviously are things you don't want to go to, but that can include telling the boss, the lecturer, the senior organizer, or getting someone else in the group, right? There are obviously worst case scenarios. The third thing is then to be in a place where you're having that conversation. So have that conversation. Is there a different way that you like to work? Is there something we're not doing that we can do better? Do these timings not work for you? Are you not in the country? And then follow through. So make it accountable, right? So you've committed to getting your part done by X date. Before X date, we're going to have 2 checkup meetings. Here are them in the diary. And this is what we need from you. If that doesn't happen, unfortunately, this is what we're going to get to. Don't be afraid to set boundaries, but at the same time, start with a bit of a humane conversation to see if there's anything going on, and then lead it with a clear facts, figures, pattern. Not I think, I believe, I feel, but more here's what we've seen over the X amount of time, here's what you're doing, here's what you're not doing, here's what we need from you, this is what we require as a group. And don't make it feel like the whole group is coming together. It's not a bullying scenario, but it's a business scenario, and the two things are very different. I know there was another question, so let me just, how do I ask my manager for a raise? I feel like I'm pulling more than I weigh and my efforts not being recognized. That is a great question. So, regarding raises and promotions, right? It's a couple of scenarios. One, think about how your company is doing in terms of finances. 2, think about which communication style or which personality is your manager. What really works for him or her or them. The reason I say that is because I'm currently coaching a senior stakeholder in insurance, and he himself, as a man, has been trying to get a promotion for the last few months. And what he realized was he was communicating to his manager as a yellow, but his manager is actually a red. And so his communication style was different, and so the two weren't meeting. And so one, think about how do they like to be communicated to? and how can you start that conversation? 2, and the most important thing, is take a step back, write down all your skills, your successes, your strengths, and your impact you've made with real data points or impactful results. Have that prep ready. Second to that is do your research. What's the current salary in the market and how different are you from that? Thirdly, look at your job description versus the senior job description that you're currently doing, and highlight in your current job description all you've done and clear examples at, and of the senior job description where you are currently doing the work and examples of that. Take all of that content in. Prior to taking the content in, put in a meeting with your manager, clearly saying, discussion about my goals or my future. Send them this information about half an hour before the meeting, go into the meeting and present it, and then ask for a follow-up. But at the same time, remember to acknowledge their viewpoint, understand where they're coming from, and then counter it with the evidence that you've gained. So evidence is key, and don't be afraid to start boundaries and back off and kind of say, hold on, I'm doing this much work, here's the proof, and this is what the current climate is paying outside. And the worst case scenario, after having a few of those conversations, is to both get your CV in order, get your LinkedIn in order, and start looking around, because sometimes what you have to do is jump ship. But that's the worst case, right? So that should take a few months before you even get to that point. Hopefully that's helpful. How would you go about persuading someone to see your things at work? So again, really similar, really kind of similar discussion. How would you go about persuading someone to see things your way at work? Again, think about who are they? What's their personality? How are you approaching them? What are the business objectives? So with work, it's always business related. What are your objectives? Your team objectives, your company objectives, your wider business objectives. What are their goals and your goals? Or what is a project objective? And then take it back. Everything you do should have a clear outline of what the expectations are. Use that as you feed into the conversation, i.e., you're not doing this way. However, the scope of work suggests that the client wants this to be done in this way, and hence why we should do it, but do it from a factual perspective. So let's say you want someone at work to provide budget for a team outing, right? Simple example, simple scenario, or a team breakfast, let's say. They don't want to do it. They don't see the point of it. So you go back to the wider people objectives. Actually, our company wants to be inclusive. Our company wants to be diverse. Our company wants to create a good team morale. Right. Our company or our team is not able to do things after work because they're busy or they have lives. They don't want to give up their lunches, but they're happy to come in half an hour earlier. So you go with those facts. I've spoken to the team. They're happy to come in half an hour earlier. One of our wider company objectives and our team objective is to create a more inclusive and personal space and to allow for team bonding. We haven't done anything for the last 6 months. And the research on the internet, i.e. Mind Charity or Harvard Business Review or Forbes, shows that if you do team bonding exercises, this can increase mental health and profitability and productivity by 23%. And here's my plan. This is the budget. This is the plan. This is what it's going to cost me. This is where I'm going to be accountable, and this is where I need your help. So in that scenario, go with why are you doing it, i.e. what KPIs does it hit? Where's the research coming from? What do you need from another person? What are you doing? And kind of the overall picture. So you've hit all the nuggets in that scenario. Hopefully that works. Of course, if it doesn't work, definitely let me know. How do you speak to people who are older than you and get them to listen when you're in a position of power over them? I often feel like these people do not take me seriously due to my age. Honestly, I have this conversation and I have this problem every day. And so we need to take age out of the equation, and you need to look at the expertise that you're providing, i.e. again, going back to that kind of data point of who are you speaking to? What are their stakeholders, their shareholders? So remember, people who are older than you and maybe senior in the job position or in the hierarchy, they have different KPIs. the higher you get, the more you think about commercial, the more you think about profits, the more you think about shareholders. Are you speaking their language? Firstly, are you using those buzzwords or those terms they want to communicate to? Secondly, think of your expertise. Where is your skill set versus their skill set? Where have you shown that you are an expert, and how can you thrive that? And thirdly, always go with a plan. Sometimes when it comes to senior stakeholders, they are either not able to listen or don't understand or stuck in their ways because, one, they don't have the education, two, they don't see the problem, and three, they have other stakeholders and shareholders that they have to address to, and therefore their communication style is less story, more results, and more cautious. So if they're on the cautious side, think about here, how are you approaching them? And what does that mean for your overall vision? Okay, I'm just going to carry on and then I'll go back to questions. Of course I will. So here's another kind of setup, right? How do you create successful conversation from a difficult one? So here's two different types of strategies. Here's a common scenario that we're having in business right now. Unfortunately, we can't pay that invoice. Okay. Here's another one. Can you do this for free as we have no budget? So this one I've created an example template for. The first strategy on the left we've already discussed. So build up, reflection, conversation, follow through. The second one might be the one that will help you to solve those problems. So first is inquiry. You cultivate an attitude of discovery and curiosity. You pretend like you don't know anything, but you try and learn as much as possible. Two is acknowledgement. You acknowledge, i.e. you acknowledge that you're showing and you show what you've heard and you've understood. So you try and understand the other person, you can repeat it back. Thirdly, it's advocacy. When you sense your partner or opponent has expressed all the energy, then you share your perspective and you help to clarify your position. And then fourth, it's a problem solving. So now you're ready to begin building the solutions. You brainstorm, you continue your inquiry, and most important, you see what can work and what you both can build on. So as an example, the question that we had about the promotion, the raise, actually your first step is inquire. What's going on in the business? What's the budgets? What's the promotional cycle? What's happening? Acknowledge, right? I've acknowledged what you've said. So you've said to me that the promotional cycles are currently paused because of COVID, but they will definitely come back up in the next 3 months, etc., etc. Advocacy. So I understand we've got 3 months to work on this. I'm really serious about being promoted. I've looked in the market and currently the work that I'm doing, people are being paid 20% more for. Here's also a sheet of all the things that I've done well and successes and acknowledgements. Here's my job description and where I've ticked it off. Here's the future job description where I've ticked it off. Here's the extra work that I'm doing outside of my scope. Here's the great feedback I've had. Can you now help me to move forward and fight for that promotion? Can you mentor me? Can you sponsor me? Can you coach me? Can we work together on this? So again, bring them into that problem solving journey. Bring it in. I'm just going through the questions as well. Same way when you're speaking to those who are older than you, inquire, why do you think this way? Why do you think Instagram maybe isn't the best thing for our team? Why do you think Instagram isn't the best thing for our university? Why do you think that we shouldn't be sharing this information online? Why do you think that won't work? Why do you think the speaker won't work? You know, ask a lot of why, stay curious, acknowledge. Oh, okay, so I understand what you're saying, and just to summarize, you think that Instagram won't work for our project or for our university, let's say, because we don't have enough people to manage it. Appreciate that. Advocacy. I understand what you're saying about time management and prioritization. Completely appreciate that. But actually, our university targets a large percentage of millennials who are now on Instagram, and here's the data to prove it, and here's the research. What I propose is I'll come back to you with a story and a narrative of what we should be posting, why, and what kind of value drivers it hits. We'll also schedule it online, and how about we trial it for 6 weeks and see what happens? You don't have to do any work, I'll do the work, but what I would need is you to advocate me, right? Think about how can they advocate you, how are you solving the problem? And if they're older or senior, where are your expertise that you can bring into the fold? What about all the tools and techs that you can use? What about the conversation style that you can adapt? And most importantly, make it easier for them so they look good, so inevitably it helps you going forward. So here's an example. So the question is, can you do this for free as we have no budget? And here's a template. So inquiry, I see, okay, is that because of the current situation? How are you during this time? What are your stresses? So stress, bring it back to humanity. Talk about the person, talk about their mental sanity, their emotional sanity, how are they doing? Acknowledgement, I understand. Just to confirm, you currently don't have a budget due to the situation, though would like me to support. I appreciate these times are stressful for you. Advocacy, given the circumstances, I too would like to support you. I'd have to think about this offer, if that's okay, especially given the circumstances. I know you two want to provide the best for your audience and community, so our mission is very aligned. And then you problem solve. So I've looked into the current offering. Actually, here's my expertise. So in 2019, I've done X, Y, Z. I appreciate it. You don't have the budget right now, but what I propose is either I provide a 20-minute free session with a follow-up for your organization, or you pay me a donation into my charity of choice and I'm able to give 20 minutes to the candidates involved. Or in exchange, I would like you to, I will reduce my fees to X amount, but I also would like a video testimonial, 2 testimonials, and some marketing links. So again, it's about problem solving, but negotiating. And it's about how do you make sure that you are still being treated like the expert that you are and not feeling like you're too junior or incapable or not good enough. So this particular example that I've shared with you, I've actually had tons of freelancers, tons of clients, and tons of my friends use, and it most definitely has worked for them. And so this is another way of doing it. And so here's a strategy that I like to kind of simplify. So when you're having these difficult conversations and managing them, the first half, think about your skills and your strengths. For each skill and strength, write as success. For each success, write as so what. So what, an impact, what result have you driven? Then when you have that ready, you pick one of the 2 strategies that I've shared with you, or one of the 3. You build your story and narrative, i.e. where are you willing to compromise? What kind of situation and communication style are you going to use? What personality is the other person? And then you go and speak and you try it out. And it will work, and it does work. So managing difficult conversations 101. When it's a difficult conversation, understand the person, don't be led by emotion, and practice. When you're thinking about the personality and communication style, consider the style of communication, provide clear examples, and establish a connection. But again, manage your emotions and your mindfulness. Don't think of yourself as less. Take a breath. Sometimes the best thing to do is stay silent and slow down and make a plan and have the confidence. Talk it out, share your successes, and consciously stop the negative thoughts. Sometimes we have a view that we have to fill the silence. So if you've made a statement, just stop. Give the person some time to think. Instead of saying, and giving more and more, just be like, actually, do you need some time to think? Do you want us to come back to this? Do you want us to pick this up another time? Sometimes you need time to think, but don't fall into the trap where if you're getting that promotion, for example, and your manager says, I'm only going to give you 5%, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine because it's better than nothing. No, you go back and you say, well, in the market, the average is 20%, and then it falls silent. But you really want that money, and you're like, it's 20%, but actually I'm okay taking 15. Well, your manager might have given you 20. So just stay silent for a second and see what you negotiate with. Don't just rush into it. Don't worry about it. It's really important to have that time. And the last thing I end with, and I let you do this in your own time, is I like to create goals. So SMART goals for your professional, for your personal, and any additional ones. These goals will help you to manage those difficult conversations, but most importantly, provide a focus and a vision so that you can work backwards and be in a place where you are meeting those beneficiaries, meeting those, really meeting your future self in the best way that you want to. Personal could be becoming more confident. Professional could be getting that raise, getting that salary. Additional could be getting that person to really do their work in your group project. A bonus could be feeling like and kind of, you know, being deemed as an expert in a similar area, rather than always having seniors talk back at you or think of you as less. On that note, a couple of years ago, I actually coached a lady from Santander. And remember, she's Santander, she was about a middle manager, she wanted to progress. And her seniors also didn't take her seriously. But she wanted to move into a digital space and she had a lot of information around it. So what she did at work was she started a digital newsletter. And so every 2 weeks, she would go and collate the 5 big stories in digital, put it into a really simple newsletter and share it out within the company. What that slowly started doing was, initially she shared it with her team, then she shared it with a wider team, then she shared it with the company, and then the senior stakeholders, and the mailing list went from like 10 people to 1,000 people. What that meant is she was creating credibility and being deemed as a trusted leader in that area, so that when she spoke to someone who was more senior or higher than her, she could come back with, well, actually, I have these expertise and I know what I'm talking about. And that also really helped. So I'm just going to go back to the questions. I have to basically ask a uni lecturer to explain the whole course to me, not like I didn't attend anything, just really struggling to grasp how to do well in the module. How would you get the marks and the assignments? I feel like it's going to come across as a bit ridiculous getting to the end of semester and I just don't get it. Yeah, 100%. So one part of doing that is, for example, let's say there's a particular assignment that you've handed in and you haven't got the marks, the projected marks, is going back and saying, I have 3 questions. Please, can you take some time to answer these questions? It's not I don't understand it. It's I feel like I'm getting stuck behind. I want to do the best in this module as I can. Can you please just give me 3 tips of how I can really kind of improve? The other thing is to ask other people in your lecture and see if they can help you. The third is taking a step back and really understanding, right, what is it I don't understand? Is it the content? Is it the conversation? Is it the way that it's presented? Do you need it to be in a different way? And the fourth thing is, don't ever feel like you're going to come across and feel silly or feel ridiculous. The whole point of being at university and having the great amount of like information and contacts and community you have is so you can ask these questions. So don't be afraid to go and ask your careers counselor or your enterprise support team or your university lecturer to say, look, I just don't get it. I just don't think I'm understanding this. I'm just not clicking. This is how I work. This is how it's being presented. Can we come to a happy medium? Because I also want to really do well in this class. So allow them to understand how they've explained it, allow you to go back and say, actually, this is just not my communication style and it doesn't work for me. And then be at a point where you're like, right, how can we work together? I had something really similar when I was at university. And my first year, I nearly failed it, to be honest, because I just didn't ask for help. And I just didn't know what to do. And in my final year, I did really well because I similarly went back to university lecturers and say, look, I just don't understand. I just don't think it's clicking. Can I kind of take 15 minutes of your time and repeat back what you've shared with me? And you tell me if it makes sense or not. Can I please take 15 minutes of your time and talk you through this question? Can I give you an example essay that you can mark and tell me what I need to do? Is there anybody else in the alumni that you can connect me with and we can see what's happening? So use this time and the resources to definitely go for it, and don't ever feel silly, because once you come out of it, you're going to feel silly that you didn't ask. And sometimes the best help and the best advice I can give is just acknowledge where you need the support and go and ask for the help. What tips would you give to handle frustrating communications where the other person has made up his mind not to agree to your terms? So I guess there's a difference, right? I've had this question before. So if you're talking friendship, then that's borderline toxic. So that is for you to like really kind of get your head around. If you're talking business and you're talking really entrepreneurship and you're talking university or academia, if someone has made up their mind not to come to the terms, it's really important for you to acknowledge why it's bothering you, what you want out of this. And again, going back to, have you tried to communicate to them in the way they want to be communicated? Have you thought about what their kind of like what their ideas would be, or why they maybe have said no? And can you help to meet them? Or have you had a one-to-one just to be like, look, everything on the table, why are you not agreeing to it? Take their points away and then come back with your own points. Sometimes it's just because they don't understand the bigger vision, right? It's similar to me and some, you know, me and like some friends I have. I'm very storytelling. I'm like, oh, let's go on a holiday and let's enjoy ourselves. And they're like, no. I'm like, why? They're like, I'm just, no. And it's quite frustrating, but it's because we haven't explained it to them. We don't have a plan. We don't have a budget. We don't have why we're doing it. There's no kind of sense of direction. And again, it's going back to communication style. But what I would say is, for that question, I guess I would need a little bit more information, because if it's on the borderline toxic, then that's a no. If it's business, then that's a different way of managing it. I understand it's a difficult time for all. I know, I'm so sorry. How can I get through to someone who's being impacted by the current climate? Why is not responding to vital emails whilst remaining empathetic? Honestly, jump on a call. Put some time in the diary and just say, hey, I've seen that you're super busy. I understand this is a really stressful time. Do you want to have a virtual coffee for 15, 20 minutes and see if that works? If not, you just reply, you just send emails and be like, just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I sent you an email a few days ago. Do you mind checking at your earliest convenience, etc., etc. So just being quite empathetic in your tone, but kind of redirecting them to the ask. Sometimes emails don't work for everyone, and you just have to jump on a call. And if we're talking from a business sponsorship and corporate perspective, ghosting is actually really real. So you could have a corporate sponsor, or you could have a partner sponsor who one day just stopped replying back to you. For some reason, that's quite common. So again, it's about you being the bigger person and staying empathetic and replying back to them as you normally would, and looping them into what you're doing and just waiting for them to reply. But if it's someone who's closer to home, put in a phone call and really have that time for them. So I appreciate there's a lot of questions and we only have a few minutes left. And of course, I want to get through all of them. So what you can do is you can follow me on my socials and add me on LinkedIn and send these questions through via DM, or you can send it through your enterprise support team and they can send me the questions and I can send an FAQ. And if you are someone who is an entrepreneur or a business leader, I'm giving one-to-one coaching and kind of coffee and calls, so you can get in touch with me. And if you're a student, we are actually doing a student series once a week for webinars where you'll have a lot more time to ask me anything, and also the experts that we have in our community. It's inclusive, open to all, but I just wanted to make that clear before we kind of carry on and lose the time. I know there's a couple of things in the chat as well. Can you give me some ideas how we could communicate with different color ones in a more effective way? Yeah, of course. So if someone is a yellow, but you're talking to a blue, so let's say I'm a yellow and I'm selling someone who's a blue a car, they don't want to know about the story. They want to know about how many miles is this going to do? What is it compared to the competitors? Average MOT, how much does it cost per year? What is the servicing look like? How long is this going to be in my household for? Versus if you're selling someone a car who's a yellow, you're like, this is going to be amazing. You're going to go down the street and your hair is going to flow. And obviously I'm really like, over exaggerating here, but you're going to tell them a story. You're going to enthusiast them into it. You're going to inspire them. You're going to be like, actually, you wanted a car because you wanted to have a really good time. The summer's coming, you can put your windows down, the music will go right up. There's a Bluetooth, so it connects with a speaker. At the same time, it's small enough that you can park everywhere. Just imagine yourself taking this car, jumping in and really having a good time. You can go on really long drives. So someone who's a yellow maybe isn't that concerned about like the analytics and the data. Someone who's a blue, it would be like, right, summer's coming, so of course this car might need to be kept in the shade. It's small enough so it can park anywhere. You can go into London, you don't have to pay the emission costs. On top of that, an average car of this kind lasts 8 to 10 years in a household. You can do 10,000 miles and then you do an MOT, a service cost XYZ. So it's just about understanding how they communicate and how you can communicate to them. Of course, this doesn't happen overnight. This is just a really good summary. If you want any more information, just kind of contact me. But this is something that we learn, and we learn every day. This is not something I necessarily knew when I started work, and I got myself into really tricky situations. And so I'm really happy to be sharing what my, let's say, failures or mistakes were with the next generation to help them. And now when I talk in terms of business, what I do, and if I don't, someone asks, what if you don't know the communication style? Sometimes you don't have to just talk and talk and talk. Listen, and listen to how they're communicating with you. What kind of like buzzwords or terms are they using? How do they communicate? Are they quite blunt? Are they quite expressive? Are they quite shy? Are they a bit more kind of like confident in their communication? Take a step back, silence, but also ask questions, be curious, and ask them a lot of whys and why they want to get into something.
The last question that we've got on here, which is also about personality types, might be nice to end with. How can I communicate a level of seriousness to my brand? People consider me as a jokey person, and I think they also see my business as such.
Yeah, that's a great question. So thank you, Katrina, for sharing that, but also whoever anonymously shared it. So your brand is a good reflection of you, right? But remember, your founder story is not your business story. And so to make things really simpler, because that involves its own like narrative. So of course, get in touch with me and send me that question via LinkedIn or via DM, and I can have a 20-minute call with you to go through it. But my kind of ending statement would be, think about your values. So if your value is not being jokey, but your value is being inspirational, enthusiastic, if your culture drivers are technology, business, or education, for example, the kind of content that you're sharing, are you being seen as that thought leader? And so think about what you're sharing outwards and what the perception is of people. I.e., if you want to be seen as a public speaker, you want to be able to share tips and tricks of public speaking. You want to be able to share what you've done and what other people are doing. Do that in your own personal profile, and then in your business, think about what your business values are, i.e. what's the long-term goal, the middle-term goal, the short-term goal, and today's goal. Are you sharing that relevant and right content in so? And it doesn't matter about you as a character. It's good to be jokey and it's good to have a personality, but you can showcase that personality throughout in a different way, which means that you can keep your personal profiles separate to your business. But remember, your founder story is not the same as your business story. So your business narrative and story and personality really needs to be directed by its own goals. And your founder story, i.e. you as a person, where you want to go outside of that business. The business is still there, remember, but you want to go. Where do you want to go, and what do you see that is? And therefore, what do you have to do to work backwards? If you want to be a manager, for example, you want to see what kind of like traits do managers have, and how can I start picking that up now? If you want to be a public speaker, you want to be a thought leader, you want to start reading and doing a lot more research and sharing that outwards and showcasing to people that actually you're taking it seriously. This is what you've read, this is what you've done, and this is what they should be doing. A really good example of that actually is my Instagram. So I'm currently going through a rebranding process, which I only decided last week. Rather than being seen as like a really, so the fun is their personalities are the three colors, but rather seeing as like quite a choppy person, I have now a clear strategy that I'm implementing. So thought leadership, and then pictures of me presenting, because I want to be showcased as a public speaker, thought leader, and someone who's quite fun, but not someone who's doing everything. So again, it's about taking a step back, your values, your goals, your mission, and then seeing if the content you're sharing really aligns to that. So hopefully that's a great one to end on. Of course, like I said, get in touch with me. Here's my socials, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and anything you want. Drop me an email, drop me a DM, or if you want to put in some time with me. And of course, if you're a business leader or owner, I am offering 20-minute calls and one-to-one coaching. And if you're a student, we are very much offering workshops and webinars in our student series, which are free and online.
Thank you, Sonya, and for such an insightful session today. And that was great. I will take on board what you said and share with everybody your contact details if you have any more thoughts or questions for her. And of course, if you would like to re-watch this episode, it's been recorded, and any of our other episodes, it will be live on our web pages shortly. We have also been working to put up some dedicated information and support for you at the moment throughout COVID-19, and you can find this at brooks.ac.uk/enterprise/COVID-19. And also please do give us a follow on social media if you want to know more about your enterprise support team here. Our next webinar will be on how to capture your brand photography 101, which is going to be with founder of IM Media, Amisi. So I hope to see you all tuned in next week. Thank you again, Sonya. And I hope everybody has a lovely rest of their day.
Fab. Well, thank you again. And yeah, and remember, the last thing I want to leave with is your university and your enterprise support team have your best interest in heart. So anything you feel isn't covered or you need support, you know, definitely go and approach them and ask them. The fact that you have a university that's so active makes a massive difference. And of course, they can direct you in the right way as well. So definitely just take them up on all the goodies that they're giving you right now, because that will help you in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.